Hello, and welcome to the Mom Project's Empower Hour. I'm Amanda Burris, and I'm so thrilled to be moderating today's conversation with a remarkable group of women from the RF Ideas Women Making Waves ERG. Today, we're going to dig into 3 topics that I think will resonate deeply with so many of you watching. What it really looks like to build a career that doesn't always follow a straight line, how to pursue career growth while also being a mom or caregiver, and how to reinvent yourself professionally because growth doesn't stop no matter where you are on the journey. Before we get started today, a couple housekeeping notes. This session will be saved on our LinkedIn and our YouTube channel, available to rewatch anytime. And we will have time for questions at the end. So feel free to drop them into the comments throughout, and we'll get to as many as we can. Also, we love to hear comments or anything that you want to share as we get started here. So let's start with some introductions from these amazing women. Please share your name and your title and a word that describes where you are in your career right now. Megan, why don't we start with you?
Yes, thanks, Amanda. My name is Megan Forsberg. I am the marketing director here at RF Ideas, and the word that would describe where I'm at my career right now would be harmonizing.
I love that.
My name is Elise Fichtel. I am a junior accountant here at RF Ideas, and one word to describe my career journey right now is evolving.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Emily Jackson. I'm the Senior Channel and Inside Sales Manager here at RF Ideas, and one word to describe my career journey right now would be empowerment.
That's great.
Hello, my name is Kellyanne Binkowski. I'm a Senior Technical Specialist at RF Ideas, and one word that would describe my career right now would be growth.
Love it.
Hello, I'm Christine Quinn, and I'm the vertical lead for higher education. And one word to describe where I'm at right now in my career would be determination.
Ooh, I love that one, especially from my heart as a fellow salesperson, Christine. So I love to start this out with a quick icebreaker. So we'll go in the same order, but Megan, let's start with you. If your career journey were a movie genre, what would it be and why?
Oh my goodness, I had a hard time with this one. I'm going to go with a sitcom, but follow me on this one because I feel like I've had to learn to kind of roll with the punches. Sometimes it feels like I just have to have the little laugh track with how things are navigating as a younger mom with young kids. So I'm going to go with sitcom. There's great episodes, but there's also, challenging episodes. I think you feel it, but it feels human right now.
Really love that. And Elise, how about you?
Yeah, movie genre for me right now would be a comedy drama. I try to bring fun and laughter to everything I do, but I've definitely had some highs and some lows that make a drama so great.
That's so good. That's so good. And Emily.
Yeah, I love this question, and I immediately thought of a coming of age story because I feel like I'm really coming into my own right now and changing from where I was, personally. So that's where I'm at.
Fantastic. Kellyanne, how about you? Where are you at in a genre for your career?
Boy, for my career, I'm not really a movie buff, but one thing that I did want to, the Wonder Woman movie is my favorite movie. And I just think it talks about empowerment and goes along with our themes. So I'm going to choose that movie. It was a great movie as well.
That's great, Kellyanne. You always feel good when you think about that Wonder Woman in you. Christine, how about you?
Okay, so I'm taking a little bit of a different approach. I love movies. My favorite are any type of like military or action movie. But for where I'm at right now, I was thinking more of like a heist thriller. So think Ocean's 11, Casino. So a lot of strategy, like wit and grit, and like the stakes are high. But at the end, there's that satisfying win. And then also it takes a team. So I'm surrounded by a lot of people that also have a lot of those skills, wit, grit, and strategy. So I think together we would make a great movie.
Oh, I love it. Well, and such different genres from all of you, and really tells a little bit about where you're at in life and a little bit about your personalities too. So, well, let's get into it. Emily, we're going to start with you here. For those in the audience who are new to RF Ideas, can you give us a quick snapshot of who you are and what it is that RF Ideas does?
Absolutely, happy to. So RF Ideas manufactures RFID readers for logical access. So our Wave ID readers allow for a passwordless authentication onto things like workstations, time clocks, any pieces of equipment, any endpoint that you can think of. So we've been in the business for 30 years and we empower our customers with trusted identity, seamless workflows, and enhanced security.
Love that. Thank you for that. Now, we have amazing women here on the call today. So tell us a little bit about Women Making Waves ERG, how it started, and what it means to the team and why it matters.
Yes, I love talking up this group because I'm just so passionate about it, and all these women in the group are passionate about it. And, you know, we started this from scratch about 4 years ago. We really saw a need for this type of community and purpose-driven group within our organization. And so we started with just, you know, virtual meetings, kind of powwowing on how can we do more within the organization, our community, how can we give back? And now it's turned into, you know, annual in-person events. We do numerous give back opportunities in the community, and we're professionally and personally growing with each other. So we've honed in on really having a network of women within our organization that can support one another. So that's really the most valuable thing, I think, to me. And I think a lot of our other members would agree that, you know, now we have a group that we know we can rely on for mentoring and just guidance through our personal and professional lives.
Oh, that's so special. A community brings everyone together. But I love all the action that you're taking out of it as well. All right. So now that we've set the stage, one of the things that I love most about this group is that none of you look the expected road to get where you're going to today. So as we talk about non-traditional career paths and making pivots, Kellyanne, walk us through your career. What was it planned the way that you wanted it to? And what was the most expected turn you took along the way?
Sure. So I started my career off going to school for music therapy, actually. So I did that. Probably one of the most unexpected turns was I ended up with my whole entire career in the technical field instead. So it was kind of a really big difference through life changes and all kinds of things that we're going to be talking about today, career pivoting and reasons why you change your goals. And those are two big differences for me. How I made those changes is I started in support roles, really in the getting my basic skills down in support roles. But then I decided, you know, in order to move into a whole different field, I would take those roles into different industries. In other words, I knew I wanted to go towards the technical realm. So I took those support roles like customer service and receptionist jobs, things like that, but in computer industries. So I at least put myself in the industry that I wanted to morph myself into. And I think by doing that, we can create opportunities for ourselves, even if we come from very different lines of work, or maybe our school is different than where our career ends up. We can still create opportunities for ourselves along the way by putting yourself in either, maybe it might not be your dream job, but it might be the one in the right place. So that way you could be at the right place and time when that time comes.
I love that, Kellyanne. It's always one step on the way to the staircase, right? You're building those blocks to get to where you want to come. Emily,
Right.
Yep, right. Emily, when you made a major pivot, whether it was in a new industry, a new function, or a completely different role, how did you figure out what was transferable from your past experience, and how did you make that case for yourself?
Yeah, you know, I made it to the tech industry because I had to pivot when I lost my job during COVID. And I think a lot of us may have experienced that. Listeners today may have experienced that. And I had to think, okay, where I was at, I liked, but I'd like to do more, and I'd like to have an area where I feel like I can grow. So I really took a practical approach, and I made a list of transferable skills and compared those to a role in sales, a role in the tech industry, and kind of saw, to my surprise, that I had a lot of skills from my past fitness experience and operations experience that really fit well into a sales role and in the tech industry. And that told me, hey, I think I can go after this. So I just went for it, and luckily was able to get into this industry, and now I love it.
Good for you. Those transferable skills are so important. And I love how you took that and put it into action. I think a lot of us forget about, no matter where we're at in our career, we can think about where we've been and take a look at where we can go.
Absolutely.
Elise, there's a fear many people have about pivoting. I'll be starting over, or I don't have the right credentials. How do you reframe that fear? And what would you tell someone who is standing at the crossroads right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And thank you. So, pivoting, first of all, is intimidating. There's an uncertainty that comes with a pivot where I think fear naturally comes to the surface. And I think it's also important in that same breath to give yourself a little grace when that fear does come up. I've definitely experienced my fair share related to this. And I really try to remind myself when I am at the crossroads of a new journey is that pivoting is not starting over, it's building forward. I'm still an individual. I have my experiences, my skills. We've talked on transferable skills already. And I think you would be doing yourself a disservice to say that you're starting over, because we're all whole individuals and you're bringing that experience with you and building onto it into the next journey. I think that that's a really important thing to highlight. And it's also just a really great opportunity to learn something new. Even if it might not be the direction you want to go in, you can still pick up those skills from a pivot and pivot again, potentially.
You could be pivoting throughout your whole life, right? And I think that that's important for all of us to give ourselves grace in thinking about that. So Kellyanne and Emily, has your nonlinear path ever felt like a disadvantage in the job search or in a room full of people with more traditional backgrounds? And how did you navigate that?
Sure, I guess I'll go first, if you don't mind, Emily. Basically, I did have definitely a very different background than moving into a technical field from my background in education. And kind of like what Emily was saying earlier about transferable skills, you want to take your strengths that you have in your own background. Everyone has strengths to bring to the table, and you want to make sure you do some self-reflection on what your strengths are, so that way you can bring that and have confidence in your skills that you have and what you can bring to a new position or a new career.
And, Kellyanne is exactly in my mindset as well. I would absolutely say the transferable skills and the strengths. And what I would add to that is something that I found really valuable was getting that outside perspective on my strengths. So, I think I know what my strengths are, but we're all our harshest critics, right? So if you can get into your mentors and your network and ask them, hey, what do you think my strengths are? I guarantee you'll find that it's a lot more than what you're giving yourself credit for. So that allows you to know, okay, well, I didn't think this was a strength, but I actually can do that role. I can make that pivot because I actually am good at that. So that's something I would really encourage everybody to do, is get with their network and find out what that outside perspective is.
I love that advice. I oftentimes think that we're our biggest critics. And so when you start talking to people about what they see in you, you're like, wow, I didn't even realize that that was a strength of mine. And I think that that's amazing advice. So now I want to shift to something that I know is close to the hearts of many in our audience today. And that's the reality of growing professionally while also growing a family. So Christine, I want to start with you here. Let's get real. What was the hardest part of returning to work or continuing to grow in your career after becoming a mom? And what do you wish someone had told you?
Thank you. So I became a mom about 17 years ago. So I spent a lot of time reflecting on those earlier years and how stressful they were. And it's actually hard to imagine that I was able to overcome that and work the entire length of my daughter's childhood. But I think the hardest part was that there's really no guidebook. So you can lean on your friends, you can lean on your network, you can read the self-help books, but nothing really prepares you for that first week or month or even year when you do go back to work. I think that looking back, I wish I could have had more grace with myself and told myself that this is just temporary and that it's okay to be tired, to be exhausted, to be scared. And every child's different. And whether it's your first child or your second, that has its own challenges, right? So a lot of issues with pickup and drop off. And I remember specifically one time leaving the office, and I had about an hour commute back home to pick up my daughter at daycare, and there was an accident. So there was a lot of traffic, and I remember sitting in my car crying because I wasn't going to make it to pick up on time. But I had my family that I was able to lean on. So that was very helpful. But I would say that the hardest part is just that there's no guidebook, and every single person has a different journey on what that looks like.
I'm hearing a resonated theme of lean into your community, friends, family, your network. I love that. So Megan and Christine, I'm going to throw this one over to you. How have you defined balance for yourself? And has that definition changed over time? And what does it actually look like on a day-to-day basis for you?
Do you want me to jump in, Christine?
Sure.
Okay. So I'll offer a little bit of a different perspective. I'm a newer mom. I've got a 2.5-year-old and a 10-month-old. So I'm right in the thick of what Christine was just kind of explaining. And to add on to why I actually said sitcom, it was not my answer that I originally thought of, but kind of pivoting, audio networking, all this coming back to kind of this spot that I'm standing. I actually, funny enough, my water broke standing right where I am. So it's just very funny talking about being a mom on this imbalanced sitcom, right? Like things just do balance. And I think coming back to that is, the definition of actually the word balance, I've tried to actually throw out the window. There is no balance. That is a non-existent feeling in early motherhood. And so I've had to actually learn, like, what are other ways to describe that, which is, equilibrium, or kind of trying to find harmony in the day. Because one day can, look like I'm, having to, last night, urgent care visit unexpectedly. My son had a rash. So kind of had to pivot and move, forward differently. And that's what, kind of harmonizing looked like then. I had to kind of move in that. Sometimes harmony is going to look like, all right, I got out the door on time. Daycare wasn't full of tears. I was able to get to my first meeting on time, and I got through enough of my to-do list to kind of go and do pickup and feel good about the day. And sometimes it's going to have to skip bedtime. It's going on a business trip, and all of those together can exist all in 1 week, back to back. Some of it's going to be like that. But I think letting go of the word balance, I don't think you're ever going to achieve it. It's kind of a false kind of narrative that anyone can find balance in motherhood. I know, as Christine said, like, there will one day be a day that it's not as hard, but I think right now in the thick of it, it's, again, leaning into that village, my husband over communicating, and especially at work, over communicating those boundaries and what I need, and realizing that conversation, you need to have that conversation with your manager and even with your team that you're managing, of what does that look like now in this stage of life for me? Because it's going to keep evolving and changing, and finding that equilibrium or that harmony will be kind of an ever ongoing effort for you.
Okay, so yeah, I'll follow that. And I sympathize with you, Megan. Like, my heart goes out to you. So yeah, I think following what Megan said about balance, kind of like throwing that out the window, that's a fact. So what balance really is knowing that you're not going to be balanced every single day. And every single day is going to look different. Every week and month and year is going to look different, depending on the issues that you're going through, your work schedule, what age your kids are, and balance are really a combination of smaller wins. So when you're traveling or when you have a lot of meetings, you might have to get takeout and you're not going to make it to the grocery store or do that laundry. But the days that are slower, those smaller wins of cooking yourself a few meals or getting to bed on time or just sitting down and relaxing or going for a walk, that's really what life is all about. Is just you're never going to really strive for a well-balanced life. But for all the moms that have younger kids, there is light at the end of the tunnel, which is comes with its own set of challenges, right? As your kids get older, like my daughter is right now, totally different set of problems. But you'll find that you're going to have time later on for that balance. I do have a lot more free time than I ever have before, which is scary, right? What am I going to do with that free time? Or your kids don't need you as much, and that's also scary. So it's a journey, but you'll find your balance.
I always tell people it's a journey, not a race. And a couple of things that really resonated with me, Megan, is when you're like, I just don't look to balance anymore. I'm looking for harmony. Don't sweat the small stuff. Celebrate those small wins. And I think it's important that we remind ourselves that not everything fits in a perfect box, especially in motherhoods and within our career.
Yeah. So I got that laugh track. I have to have it. The only
When you said that about your water breaking, I was like, and
it's just funny. I'm seeing her. I'm like, it's just, again, that's the laughing part of it, right? You just never know. You never know.
You never know. Well, Christine, we're going to come back to you.
Okay.
Have you ever felt like you had to choose between an opportunity and your family? And how did you approach that decision? And what did it teach you?
Yes. So the answer is yes. I have had to make many difficult decisions, especially for a long time, I was a single mom. So I didn't have a partner to lean on. And when my daughter was around 11 years old, so 6th grade, right, starting middle school, I had been presented with an opportunity from a former colleague that was probably would have tripled my salary. And what that meant was I would have to travel pretty much every single week. So I really wanted to take it. I talked to my family. I didn't say no right away. I didn't say yes right away. So I contemplated this, and it was a really hard decision, but ultimately I declined the opportunity. At that point, I had been working remotely, so I was able to work from home and just travel locally within my state. I wasn't doing any overnight traveling, so I had to say no. And looking back, I'm glad that I didn't take it, because middle school was so tougher than I ever thought it was going to be. So my daughter really needed me, and I would have not been able to support her had I would have had to travel throughout the week, every week. So.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's important, especially right now, we're hearing lots of stories about women making decisions about raising a family and their careers. And I think that a lot of times it's often making the decision that's going to work best for you and your family. So thanks for sharing that, Christine.
Yeah.
Megan, what do you look for in a company or a manager that signals that they will actually support working mothers, not just in their policy and documents and what they have on the internet, but in practice?
Yeah, I first of all feel very blessed for my experience in this, because I had to test that policy very quickly. I actually found out I was pregnant with my first child right after starting my job here at Idea. So within 3 months, I had to, well, before that, I had to figure out how I was going to tell my manager I need to take leave for the first year on my job. Was I even FMLA compliant at that point in time, right? There is a lot that goes to your head. So I was very nervous to kind of, what does that actually look like on the other side? And I was met with, again, very blessed with this, with a lot of support. I think, again, I had to learn that, like, over communicating, I think, showing that, okay, I got to this point without, because I am who I am, regardless of who I am as a mother. And I think that it's changed, before that signal of, do they actually, reinforce what they're saying? Like if I do need to take that day off because my kids are home, like, am I going to be berated with emails and this, and can you do that? Or is it, okay, step back, focus on what you need, no worries, we'll kind of help pick up the slack. I think also, again, having, I think probably the biggest signal and for other mothers that might be navigating, how do they have that conversation of, I am pregnant, I need to go on leave, or they're coming back, is just, how do I reset expectations? One, with of course, your supervisor and your team, but like reset them with yourself. I think a lot of probably what we do when you look at, how supporting working mothers, like, what do I need? Have we actually like kind of looked in the mirror and reflected on like what that looks like for me? And again, I go back to, that's going to change very, very much. Again, I know it's changed multiple times for me, and like what times I can be available. And so, that's flexing in terms of when can a meeting start and when do meetings have to end so that I can be available, and also realizing I'm at the point in time right now that like I don't get right back online at 7. That time didn't end until 9:45 last night, so I didn't get to catch up. So realizing that like there's just going to be a period of time where I have to divide and conquer, and that's not going to look like the traditional 9 to 5 right now. But again, I'm here where I am, and I've proven myself, so I have to be confident in that. Again, those signals, I think, get picked up by your boss. You're like, okay, she's confident, she's got it, and if that makes any sense at all, that I think a little bit of those signals also kind of start with you. If you can signal to them that you've got it under control, but also signaling that like, I need help and I'm not going to be able to do it all. And I'm the biggest kind of hypocrite sometimes in saying that, because I don't like asking for help, but you have to in that. And I think, your managers and other peers in your organization, they'll understand that, because again, that humbleness and humanizing of like, we've all kind of been in situations where we needed that, kind of leads to that empathetic approach.
What really resonated, Megan, was not only the tenacity that you have to juggle and do all the things to make it work, but that you're also willing to ask for help when you need it. And I think that's so important and a great takeaway for the community, because often you think I have to show them that I can do it, but sometimes asking for help shows that you're vulnerable and you're human. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. And we're so easy, I think, to ask for help in the home, right? My in-laws are over today watching my son because he couldn't go to daycare, but I need to have that same mentality at work where, hey, I need help here, right? I think that we just need to remember again that harmonizing, right? You're going to need to ask for help in all areas of life.
That lean in on harmony. I love it, Megan. Well, Megan, next question that we have comes back to you as well. For those coming back from a career pause for caregiving, whether maternity leave, time away for raising their kids, caring for a family member, what advice do you have about reentering the workforce with that confidence?
Yeah, I really reflected on this one and kind of what I wanted to share, and kind of the, I guess, experience that I want to kind of offer up is that right before taking leave with my daughter, I was in discussion of how do I take my career to the next level, and really wanting to prove that. And so I was struggling a little bit of on leave. Okay, how do I come back and remain kind of on that road and showing that I've got it? And I think the biggest advice I give is that, remember what your worth is. You just went and did like the most incredible, amazing thing that anyone can ever do. And there's going to be no meeting deliverable, event that is more important than what you just accomplished. So that, first of all, kind of gives you a little bit of that, go back to who said the Wonder Woman, that's a little bit of that kind of, just remember what you can do. But don't be afraid to also, be empowered. And if I'm passionate about, growing in my career, like that's a passion for me. I can have that as well as be a mom, and to, kind of a few, I guess, takeaways that I'd have is, don't throw away your own, wants and needs with also being a mother. You can ask for that promotion. You can go for that, that raise. Asking doesn't hurt, and showing, hey, I can, I can do it, and feeling empowered that way. I think also throwing expectations to the wind. Again, I think we've said it here, like we're harder on ourselves than anyone else. So chances are you're probably, giving yourself more of that, kind of looking glass of what am I doing or I can't do. You can do it. You've done a lot. Again, remaining confident. I think, the power and the grit to get through those newborn days, you can probably get through a couple of hard meetings and hard conversations. You're on little sleep. There's amazing what you can do. Finding other working moms, whether, in your organization, outside of it. No one really kind of understands that transition back. And sometimes just having a friend that you can text and be like, today sucked. Sorry, T. It was hard. To kind of share that with it, but we did it. We got through it. I've said it before, setting boundaries, returning back to work needs to be an ongoing conversation. If your organization has the ability to do kind of a ramp up policy, definitely recommend that, or talk about it, ask for it. Again, what's the harm? You're going to hear no. And don't forget what got you to where you are today. Again, you are that same person that you were before you went on leave or took a break, but you're also so much more than that. You've experienced a whole lot more of challenges, struggles. My goodness, even the hormonal balance you have to go through. That's, it's insane. So you are who you were, you can do it, but just also know you actually have this extra layer of armor on you that can get through probably more than you realize.
You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, Megan, going back and leaning in on that asking. That really resonated with me. And to give yourself grace in the process and leaning back into that community. I really love some of the threads that we have that are going to resonate with our community here today. So as we are pivoting into our last theme, I think it applies to every single person watching, no matter where they are, because reinvention isn't just about a big dramatic change. Sometimes it's about rediscovering yourself and where you are. So, Kellyanne and Emily, has there been a moment in your career where you felt like you needed to reinvent yourself, either by choice or by circumstance? And what triggered it and what did you do?
Kellyanne, I'll let you start.
Okay, sure. I've definitely have been through this a few times over my career. Things happen in life, and one of the big things was I became a mom. At one point in my career, became a mom, and I became a single mom as well for the majority of my career. So those things weren't planned exactly perfectly the way I was expecting them to happen. But because of that, I've had to reinvent myself. I had to pivot my career. I've had to change my career. One thing when you do that is I would really recommend having some self-reflection on what you want to do next. What's going to align with the goals and skills that you already have compared to where you want to go. And then create yourself opportunities to build yourself a path that direction, to make a new direction for yourself. I also went ahead and got back schooling, take a class, or some people, in my case, I actually went ahead and finished a whole other degree on something else that had nothing to do with music. Went back and increased my skills in technology and networking and electronics. So I took other skills that I had and gained new ones. So you want to always continue to grow, continue to increase your skills in the direction that aligns with where you want to be.
Yeah, and so, I talked about in the beginning that I feel like my movie theme is the coming of age story, right? And that really goes along with how I feel like I've been working on reinventing myself. So it kind of sparked this reinvention in me when I experienced several losses in the last couple of years, very personal journeys. And with that, or from that, I just had this fire to do more, be more, really come into my own and kind of let myself be known, I guess you could say. So that really sparked this reinvention of myself to, again, lean in on my network, learn from them, start engaging with people that maybe I wouldn't have previously felt, like I was comfortable engaging with, standing up for myself, advocating for myself. And I think that's really important as women, as mothers, that we all remember that we can advocate for ourselves in whatever situations. Maybe you are coming back from, coming back from maternity leave and you want to advocate, as Megan was saying, for, hey, I need it to just be ramped up slowly or whatever that may be. And maybe you experienced a loss or a difficulty and you want to say, hey, I need a little bit of time for myself, or I need some support. So I think it's really important to always remember that it's okay, as Megan had mentioned, to ask for help, and it's okay to advocate for yourself. You're not being pushy or bossy if you're advocating for yourself.
Emily and Kellyanne, I envision you at different times in your lives, in my millennial self, thinking about the vision boards that you created, and then from there, the steps that you took and the people that you connected with to get there. And I'm seeing that. And I think that that's an important place, that your journey's never over. You get to pick it up and pivot and do the things that you want. And thinking about what you said, Kellyanne, stepping back and figuring out what it is that you want to do, right? Not what you have to do, but is there a dream out there that exists for you? So both of those, I want you to know, gave me great visuals, and I'm sure the community is as well. So for Christine, how do you continue to invest in your own growth when life is full? When you're juggling work, family, and everything else, what does professional development actually look like for you in a realistic and sustainable way?
So I think that's definitely changed over the last year as my daughter has become a lot more independent, and I found myself with not a lot of free time, but more free time than I've ever had. So for my development, I just make sure that I strive for every day, right? Everyday growth. So that could be I go on to a lot of blogs. I go on to a lot of mom blogs. I try to make sure that, I'm doing right by my daughter as she's on her journey to college. So I'm always learning about that. And then professionally, just always on LinkedIn, always on different podcasts, like going for a walk on my lunch break, I'll put on a different podcast. So there's so many podcasts that you can go on and look through, depending on where you're at, what you want to learn, always learning and always taking even like those micro times, right? So 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there when you have a break. I think that when you look back on your week, you're going to feel like you've accomplished something, even though it might seem like this grandiose kind of thing that you're going towards or accomplishing, but those micro things along the way are really going to help in your growth. And then also, I think like what Emily was saying was kind of leaning back on those harder times, or like I've gone through some challenges as well over the last few years. And that's where I've really challenged myself to grow as a person, become stronger, advocate for myself, overcome obstacles, and then also lean on my, group of friends or my community. And that's also evolving. So as your kids get older, and you have different goals for yourself, leaning on new sets of people that also share that same mindset. So whether that's a new gym class or a yoga class or meditating, finding other avenues besides just being a mom, just being a professional, or just being a daughter or a spouse, right? You are also an individual that, so you should always be kind of working towards what goals you have for yourself and how you can meet those goals.
Christine, it sounds like you're in the season where you're learning to give back to yourself, finding those things.
Weird.
I have
it's weird and exciting. So, I mean, but then, a lot of my friends have younger kids. So that's also a challenge because they don't have a lot of free time. But I like to spend a lot of time giving advice to my mom friends that have younger kids, and really what I think I did right and what I know I didn't do right. So I like giving that feedback, trying to help as many people as possible.
You're pulling those other women up from the back and giving them experiences and sharing, because sharing is caring. No, Christine, I really appreciate that perspective. And it's one that I will share with some of my fellow moms that are out there in the same season. So Elise and Emily, I really like this question. Imposter syndrome shows up a lot when people are stepping into something new. How do you quiet that voice, especially when you're reinventing yourself in a room where you may be the least experienced person? And Elise, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, imposter syndrome is a doozy. It's something that I am consistently working through now. I can look back and I've seen it in my journey too. That little doubt loves to creep in at the most inconvenient times. And so, when that doubt does start to rise up, I really try to reframe my role, especially when I'm walking into a room where I am the least experienced. I'm not there because I know everything, and there is no need to know everything in this current situation. I've earned a seat at that table, and I'm there to learn and build and grow so I can become more confident in myself and my own capabilities. Again, that voice can be quiet or hard to quiet sometimes. It definitely it creeps in pretty hard, but that discomfort is part of the process of building that confidence to quiet that voice even more. And so I really try to just take small strides in little bouts of confidence of asking a question or reaching out to a mentor, making a meeting where my imposter syndrome is telling me, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. But I push myself into that little bit of discomfort so I can build that confidence on the other end of it.
You do deserve that seat at that table. And it is what we tell ourselves, isn't it? It's like
Yes.
we're our worst shame monster sometimes.
We really are. It's
But we do
unfortunate.
it good. We get to a better place. Emily, how about you?
Yeah, so of course, we all experience imposter syndrome, right? But I always think about this one moment when I first got into the tech industry, and I was about 2 weeks in. And I was coming from like the fitness industry, so didn't know anything about tech yet. And I commented to my trainer, I don't know if I'm intelligent enough for this job. And now, like 5 years down the line, I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, why would I think that? But it's because like I felt like I had to know so much so quickly, and I just felt like all these other people had this technical background and I don't. But they knew I didn't have a technical background when I got that role, so that's not why I was there. And everyone's learning, as Elise said, at all times. We're never going to know all the answers. And so when I caught myself thinking that, I then reframed it and thought, if my best friend came to me and she said, oh, I'm not smart enough for this job, would I say, oh yeah, you're not very smart, girl, you need to quit? I would never say that. So why would I say it to myself? So I encourage people to, when you have that thought, realize it, reframe it, and then just give yourself grace. We've talked a lot about that, right? Give yourself grace and realize you're always learning. You're never going to have all the answers. And you can think of it this way too. Think about your president of your company, your CEO. They were learning and they still are learning. They still don't have all the answers. Nobody does. So it's okay to keep asking questions and to have questions.
100%, Emily. I think about embracing all the acronyms when I first got into tech and having some very similar feelings as you did, and being like, no, because once you learn it, look at where I am, and they hired me for a reason. And I think that that's a really important sentiment. So we are going to go around, and this question is going to be for all panelists. And we're going to discuss what is the single best piece of advice you've received or would give to a woman who is ready to rewrite her next chapter. So that advice that you've gotten or that you would give to somebody who's ready to rewrite their chapter. And Megan, why don't we start with you?
I'm going to go with, I received it and I try to give it as timing is everything. Rewriting your next chapter likely will hear some no's, but I had a old mentor that told me to, rephrase the no's into not nows. And that has helped that you can actually, a no can turn into something a lot better down the line, as much as we want it. And especially if you're, an ambitious and type A, person, you're going to want that to happen exactly as you kind of hoped or envisioned. But chances are that no is actually going to turn into a way better yes down the line. So don't give up. Have some faith in the failures.
I love that. Elise, how about you?
Definitely, my best piece of advice I've received is to trust your intuition. I think as women, we kind of have a sixth sense to us. And looking back, a lot of times where I haven't trusted my intuition, I have a little bit of regret tied to that, where, oh, I should have gone for that. And if the opportunity presents itself and your intuition is even a little part of it is saying, we should go for this, you definitely should.
Love that. Love that. Emily, how about you?
Yeah, so mine would be that failure isn't a negative, and it's the only way we grow, actually. So if you think about the people that you look up to, they've failed over and over again, but they've just gotten back up afterwards. And so if they can, you can too.
They held on to that resilience and
Mhm.
strived forward. I love that. Kellyanne, how about you?
Sure. A couple of things I would say to always continue learning with the focus on your own self-care and self-growth, because that is going to show you your path and give you your alignment of where you want to go. The more self-reflection and growth you can do for yourself, the better you set yourself up for success in the future.
Absolutely, 100%. And last but not least for this question, Christine.
So I would say my biggest piece of advice I've ever been given is, don't stop believing in yourself, right? And it's never too late. So doesn't matter what age you are or where you're at in your life, or what struggles you're going through or having to overcome. It's never too late to reinvent yourself. It's never too late to grow, learn something new, or pivot. I actually watched my mom get laid off from her job that she was at for 45 years. She was 65 years old. It was really damaging to her ego and really scary time. She took a little bit of time off and then actually went back to the workforce and is now 74 and still working. She does not have to, but she just does it to get out of the house. So I'm not saying you need to do that, but what I'm saying is, no matter like how hard life knocks you down, there's always room to get back up and to keep moving. So
I love that. And that song comes to my head, if you get fall back down, gotta get yourself back up again. And I think that that's important. Well, this has been wonderful. We do have a couple questions that have come in from our community here. So anyone, Elise, Megan, Emily, Kellyanne, or Christine, feel free to jump in on this. So the first one that I saw come in is, how do you talk to your kids about your work? And has motherhood changed how you think about ambition?
I could take this one if you want, since my daughter is thinking about what she wants to be when she grows up and what career path she wants to pick. So for a long time, I don't know why she thought I sold mattresses. It was actually funny. She would tell, I think, Microsoft mattresses. I don't know how that came about, but she would always tell everyone my mom sells mattresses. So that was really like an inside joke. But anyway, talking to her about what I do and how I got here, and, even as early on as how to pick what college you want to go to, and all about really like surrounding yourself with the right people and how that's going to contribute to your growth in your job. But I think that, depending on the kid's age, you can give them as much or as little information as you want. But I think it's not necessarily about talking to them specifically about what you do, but showing them that, mom or dad, we get up every day, we go to work, we put in our all, we communicate with our peers or our, like right now, my daughter sees that I'm on meetings a lot of the time. So she's seeing that mom is showing up and putting effort in. So I think that alone goes a long way.
I love that. Anyone else have anything to add on that?
I wish my kids are too young to understand.
Yeah, they're like, they don't know.
I know. But my husband's he's an accountant. So he's in a challenging season of life with, he has to work at night and when I do it. So we've had to, explain to him, even, it's not me, but it's my husband. Our dad has to go work. And so, talking the same, like he's going to, he's busy. He's going to go, use his brain. And so we're trying to even at a young age explain absence for that, like there's a reason why we might have to step away and work. And so trying to communicate that there's like a positive to it, even at as much as we can, we'll see what resonates and sticks, but trying to not make it a negative if we have to step away and work at night.
I think that's important too. Yeah. And creating, again, that harmony, right, Megan, and having it all work together. I really like this question. And I think it applies to everyone here. So feel free to just chime in. But what role has sponsorship played in your growth? And is there a difference versus mentorship?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I definitely think there is a difference, but I think they can be both, right? I think in my life, it's made all the difference. So those are essentially your allies, those people who are, yes, you're advocating for yourself, but then they're also advocating for you. And that can be really, really beneficial, because sometimes we're just not in the right position to really advocate to where we want to be, whether that's career advancement or, maybe a sensitive topic or whatever. And so I'll give, an example of if you've got a relationship with your manager where that person is advocating for you. That is like goes bounds and leaps beyond what even you can do. And so I think that's really advantageous for not just your career, but also your professional and personal development as well.
And that's very important. Yeah, lean in. Those and I was thinking about that question too, from sponsorship to mentorship, and even how I play my role. I'm probably more of a sponsor to people than a mentor. I may not have those skills to be a mentor, but I can advocate for them. And I think that is a very big difference in some of those moments. Okay, last but not least of our questions here. How do you handle moments when you feel stuck, overlooked, or undervalued at work?
That's a good question. Definitely in my own personal experience, when I have those moments, and thankfully they're not often, but I try to really take a step back and remind myself that I am not just my career, where we have a personal life and a professional life, and it's important to pour into both cups if that's what you want to do. And so to take a step back, if maybe your professional life is a little much, take a step back, nurture your personal life so you can come back into your professional space in a better mindset.
Elise, I wish I would have had that advice 20 years ago. It would have helped me along the way. Anyone else have any advice for those moments that you feel stuck, overlooked, or undervalued at work?
I think just to build on is, take that step away. Sometimes I think it also, feel like growing up, my mom always had, mental health days, and just to take that step away. And I'm like, we need them. Like sometimes you actually do just need that reset to kind of focus on yourself, and not, do a lot, or, maybe it actually might be, Christine, you're saying sometimes the things pile up because it's busy. You need one of those slow days. Sometimes just giving yourself, and it might mean taking a PTO day to like just do the slow stuff at home, can actually leave you feeling less cluttered mentally to like come back and feel refreshed. So I'd say sometimes it's not always necessarily work that makes you feel stuck or kind of, in that like kind of down and out mood. Sometimes it's just like cleaning up the clutter around you so you can feel more kind of energized and focused.
I love that. Your mental health is so important. If you take care of your mental health, it allows you to take care of others or do the things that matter most, like work. Well, this has been such an incredible conversation. I thank you all so much for being here today and for sharing so vulnerably and openly. The journeys in this room are proof that there is no one right way to build your career, and the pivots and the pauses and the reinventions are often exactly what shape the most meaningful journeys. We're dropping a few takeaways into the chat with highlights from today's conversation, and we'll be adding everyone's LinkedIn profiles so you can continue these connections. To the audience, thank you for being a part of this today, our community, and we hope that something from today's stays with you, and I hope that everyone has an incredible and wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.